No, it's okay. I'll just do an acknowledgement before I welcome our first. So I would just like to quickly, if I can, and respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and pay my respects to elders past and present. And also pay respects to their tribal elders. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. So first up today, it gives me great pleasure to welcome three VIPs to the stage to provide an official opening for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation and also the President of the Queensland Nurses and Midwives Union, Sally Ann Jones. Now, the next person is someone I've known right from the beginning of this journey, Brett Holmes, the General Secretary of the New South Wales Nurses and Midwives Association. Welcome, Brett. And also they're joined by Assistant Secretary of the Queensland Nurses and Midwives Union, Kate Veach. Oh, that's okay, I can do it. There we are. Oh, it's all right, yeah. If I'm not doing a good job, you guys can tell me so and I get someone else to do it. So, all right, so here we are. Don't you love like a bit of an informal start? I do. It's a bit stuffy when it's too formal. So, guys, welcome and take it away.
Good morning. I too would like to commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I acknowledge that this land is Aboriginal land and it has never been ceded, always was, always will be. I want to acknowledge Lucy Haslam for the fantastic work and the energy that I have seen over many, many years to continue the magnificent battle to try and get medicinal cannabis able to be used legally in Australia. It has been a long and it continues to be a long battle. I want to acknowledge our Federal President, Sally Ann Jones, and of course all of my other colleagues from across the Federation. I happen to be from the New South Wales Nurses and Midwives Association. That's the New South Wales branch of the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation as well. I had the great pleasure to attend the very first symposium in 2014. And what I'd say to you is that if you don't know much about medicinal cannabis, then these symposiums are a real eye-opener. My attendance in 2014, I was fairly blind to the use of medicinal cannabis. In fact, almost ignorant. But when we were approached to help support this magnificent efforts being made by Lucy, it opened the world for me in terms of the understanding, and I was fascinated by the history of the use of cannabis and of course the politics behind cannabis and the politics behind hemp and the politics behind medicinal cannabis, which is far from over. And that is one of the things that needs to be addressed. But first of all, it's about education and understanding. I've got one funny little anecdote. In 2014, I flew to Tamworth, where we had the first symposium, and on the same flight was the then Premier Mike Baird. Now, you won't be surprised that the Liberal Premier and myself, as the leader of the nurses and midwives in New South Wales, didn't get to talk very much. And when we did, it wasn't a very friendly talk. But having got off that plane in Tamworth, two blokes went to the place where only blokes go and stood beside each other. And for the first time, I could say to Mike Baird, "Hey, we're on the same side." And he looked at me and he said, "Only for this." But I'm glad to see that Mike Baird's now in the aged care industry, and every now and again we agree on something again. But it's great to be here. I hope that you all have a fantastic day and that you will join with us in the journey that is still to be taken to make sure that your patients, possibly your relatives, maybe even you, can get access to medicinal cannabis at a reasonable price rather than the extraordinary costs that are now faced by patients. And often it's the parents of the patients who are paying extraordinary prices. In a system that has been bureaucratised to try and avoid the widespread use of medicinal cannabis. So I hope through the day you'll become converts if you're not already there. I suspect some of you are because you're here, but it's great to be at the first nurses specific part of the symposium. And thank you, Lucy, for acknowledging your former profession and the work that nurses and midwives can do in progressing medicinal cannabis. I hand over to Kate.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Kate Veach. I'm the Assistant Secretary of the Queensland Nurses and Midwives Union, and we have Sally Ann here today, who is the President of the ANMF, and she's also the President of the QNMU in her spare time as well. Sally's going to do the wrap-up today, so you'll hear from her a little bit later, and she does excellent wrap-ups, so really stay on. It's always something to behold, to pull it all together. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Gubbi Gubbi people on the lands on which we meet, and aren't they beautiful lands? I mean, extraordinary. The weather may not be great, but gee, the land is still absolutely amazing. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to all First Nations people who are meeting with us here today. I'd also like to reiterate the Queensland Nurses and Midwives' support for the Uluru Statement from the Heart. It's important to understand that in the Uluru Statement there is a call out to have First Nations people's voices enshrined in the Constitution. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So it's really an honour to be here with you all. As a nurse, I love being with other nurses because we do generate amazing energy, and when that energy is at its highest, we have the biggest impact. So it's wonderful to be here with you all today. Big thanks to Lucy and all the team here who've pulled this together. And I do understand it is a big event and it's been postponed a few times by, a worldwide pandemic. So thank you very much, Lucy. And a big thanks to Debbie Ranson, who is a member of the Queensland Nurses and Midwives Union, who has also done extraordinary amounts of work, and to Rita as well. You know, the analogy of birth, I think we all can understand what that would be like. So I'm hoping that the years to come will see a beautiful progression, and we'll continue that going. So in terms of today, I like sort of wrapping up my thoughts around what we're doing in terms of progressing towards a call to action. So that's where I'm going to lead you in my conversation today. So as Brett has outlined, the pathway to where we all are here today regarding medicinal cannabis has been very long. It's not always been easy, and there's still a very long way to go. But if the determination of the past efforts are anything to go by, we will certainly continue to make that strong progress that is needed to support patients, families, carers, nurses and other clinicians. So as nurses, today provides us with an opportunity to not only learn more about medicinal cannabis and to network with 3 hours attributed to our CPD tonight, so that's great. but it's also about strategising and committing to how we will continue to make tangible, real progress. So progress that includes campaigning more for safe, affordable and accessible medicinal cannabis to be made to any person who needs it. Lobbying to have the endocannabinoid system and medicinal cannabis included into the curriculum of all schools of nursing in Australia. Supporting, and for the midwives in the room, I'm going to add you there too. Not that I'm a midwife, but it's a good suggestion. Supporting an evidence-based practice model for the use of medicinal cannabis. Developing and promoting education for nurses and midwives on the role of medicinal cannabis, its uses, side effects, and the benefit it has for patients. Networking with other key professional organisations to dispel the stigma attached to medicinal cannabis through developing promotional campaigns, positive campaigns for nurses, clinicians and our community. And last but not least, continuing to lobby governments to develop, enact and update policies that reflect the needs of patients and the role of nurses as trusted patient advocates in relation to medicinal cannabis. So that's all of those things that we need to keep doing to make the progress that we need. So the ANMF, a proud sponsor and a long-term supporter of the work, has a membership of about 310,000 nurses, midwives and AINs. And they've been committed and will continue to be committed to advocating for the progress. Much of the advancements we see today related to medicinal cannabis has been the direct result of ANMF members combining and networking and doing the work. For those nurses in the room who've been part of this action, we thank you and acknowledge the hard work that you've done. And for those who aren't in the room, we do the same thing. Your work is seen, it's recognised and it is appreciated. If you are a member of the ANMF branches, and we were speaking to a nurse practitioner this morning, and you're keen to be more involved in the space or set up networks, please contact your local branch. These are the spaces in which to do that work. If you're not a member of the ANMF or one of the branches, please get involved, and you can do that by talking to Brett or I, and over the weekend you'll see some stalls outside for a few of the branches here. So in closing, a call to action is about not thinking, gee, we're not quite there yet. A call to action is about the opportunity we all have here today to keep our energy at the highest and the momentum going. By drawing on our collective power, both here in Australia and internationally, we will make safe, affordable, accessible medicinal cannabis a reality for everyone who needs it. And hopefully, we might just become the world leaders in this space. I wish each and every one of you an enjoyable conference. May you learn lots, may you make new connections, and may you feel activated to go back and do more in your spaces. Thank you.